Hey, how's it going, guys? And welcome back to the Q&A. Today we're joined with Mod Rock.
Hello.
Mod Ash.
Hello.
Mod Wolf.
Hello.
And myself, Mod Archie. Before we introduce this unfamiliar face, firstly, the connection issues. So this is being spammed in the chat. Why not get out of the way, first of all? Firstly, of course, yes, we can say we are well aware of the issues. We're just as frustrated as you are. It's a very complex issue, unlike anything we've dealt with in the past. And bear with us. We're dealing with it the best we can. We'll have updates as soon as possible. That's about all I can say on the matter, unfortunately. But yeah. Moving on. Let's do this. Who are you? Where do you come from? What are you doing for us?
Well, I'm Mod Wolf, like you said. I work in I'm a QA analyst, so I work in the QA team alongside Mod Rock and Mod Tom H. I was originally in the RS3 team. I was working in the Ninja team, which is essentially think quality of life month, but all the time, and events at the moment. A lot of events right now. So yeah, that's where I come from.
Have you played RuneScape much in the past then?
10-year-old player,
yeah.
So yeah, quite a lot.
Is that how old you are?
Oh yeah. Oh. 10 years. Been here for 3 years. I've been at Jagex for over 3 years, actually.
I know, despite coming from RS3, you actually have played Old School as well.
Yeah, quite a bit.
Yeah, so you've got good knowledge.
I was getting my void again last night because I lost my gloves and I got disconnected. So go figure.
Combat level.
And then I gave up. Not high.
I'm going to ask you a couple of questions then. How have you found working with the team so far? How long has it been?
4 days.
Yeah.
4 days.
How's that?
It's been a great 4 days so far.
Well, we haven't killed each other yet.
Yeah, that's true. We usually limit discussions to Thursdays at the pub.
Those are fun. Well,
favorite piece of content?
Raids, definitely raids. It was the first thing I technically tested for Old School.
yeah, he wasn't actually on the team at the time, but we wanted a few extra pairs of hands who knew how to handle the combat system in Old School. And he and a few others, they actually stayed late and did, well, unexpected overtime to test our project, even if they weren't on it, in addition to all their own work. So we were quite impressed by that, and it stood him in rather good stead when he came over permanently.
All right. And if you could put one thing in game without a poll, what would it be?
So I don't like how the Serpentine helm is best in slot helmet. I think Nate's not helm not being best in slot is just weird.
Right.
Like I'd like to, considering the effects that the Serpentine helm has as well, I think that can stay how it is, but then make the Nate's not helm with like some form of attachment, like the best offensive strength bonus, prayer bonus versus the Serpentine helm's defensive nature as well as its specials. I think, I don't know, but I definitely have it as an attachment. I wouldn't make it just like Nate's not all of a sudden best slotting helmet 45k, right?
Do you feel the difficulty of getting hold of the Nate's not one compares to the difficulty of getting hold of the Serpentine?
No, not at all. It would definitely need an attachment that would come from something a little bit more difficult, 100%.
Yeah, we've had ideas like that come through the community many times, saying like Serpentine should be best in slot for melee, others should maybe be best for mage and range. So I can see a lot of people agreeing with you, some not so much. But
let them catch up to when I say the attachment and the thing where the attachment would be relatively expensive.
No, context is nothing. Context is
Oh yeah,
nothing.
okay, you're right.
Right. Apart from that, last thing we have to say before we get into the questions is happy birthday, Ronan. It is Ronan's birthday. So
Happy birthday, Ronan.
happy birthday.
Thanks,
All right.
guys.
And that being said, yeah, let's get into the questions. All right, first one. Fred says, in-game mouse keys were mentioned as a possible solution to the AHK solution. Can you comment on whether or not in-game mouse keys are still on the table, or will shift-click drop be the end-all solution to this?
Well, shift-click drop was just for a very specific thing. It certainly doesn't cover all the things that people might have wanted to do. So there's an ongoing discussion to be had with you guys about what more we should or shouldn't do. But no, shift-click drop does not have to be the end of it, unless you'd like it to be. Also, we've had a lot of questions about more places where shift could be used as a modifier for more
we've
things.
got a question for that coming up.
Oh, in that case, I'll...
It doesn't
I wouldn't want to answer it preemptively.
No, please do.
Even though it's so much fun seeing that humongous cactus emerging from your head of the cameras. Yes. So yeah, people have suggested a few more places where they'd like it to do things. Now, we don't want to go completely overboard with this, and since it's only been in the game for a few hours so far, this might be a little early for deciding to fill the game with it. And you might feel that this is enough, you don't want any more. That's fine. And if you do feel you want it in more places, well, we can talk about it too.
Yeah, it's always best to let what's just went out go out and just settle a little bit and see how
Yeah,
people
see
are
if they
using
can
the system.
actually log in and try it.
Yeah. Oh.
As far as the general sentiment for shift click drop, though, it's only been a few hours, of course. How have you found it from the community? They've been enjoying it?
When you look at the poll, it did get quite a high pass rate, so there was a lot of people already excited for it before it came out. I've been camping in the Piscatoris fishing area throughout the day and this afternoon since the updates come out, and constantly running to the bank and stuff to bank the monkfish. And you see people testing out the shift drop because there's just like loads of random junk on the floor, and people withdrawing stuff from their bank to seeing how it works.
Yeah, I literally just saw a video go up from Torvesta saying he loves it. So we're just kind of gathering the community's reaction at this point. I'm trying to gather something aside from K-Konas in the chat, but it seems like they like it. It's good to see. Next question then. Red Party Hat says, can we get a counter in the Gren exchange that lets us know when we've reached our buy limits on items?
I'd love that. Sadly, the engine does not currently export all that information to us, so we can't pass it on to you. If they get a chance to change that, maybe, then we can look at it. For what it's worth, the Grand Exchange code we've got is kind of merged with RS3s. So getting substantial changes has not been all that feasible so far.
Right.
But if they can offer enough dev time to program it to be substantially different for Old School, then we can start offering more things. On the other hand, there's a lot of other things they've been asked to do for us. Some, fairly urgent stuff to do with current affairs. Some of it's due to other player requests that have been hanging around for years.
Yeah.
We can't have everything from them. Heck, we still want a clan system. And the more of these other things we put ahead of it, the harder it is to get one of those in future.
But something simple about like changing the colour of the progress bar on your buy options. So if obviously you got the green and the red, if you just change the green colour to say like a blue or something to show that you've currently hit the current limit.
Yeah, the problem is not designing how to show the information. The problem is getting the information to show.
I mean, one thing to keep in mind, because we always say, oh, we need engine time. Yes. We are getting engine time. We recently got a very good feature.
Well, you got a shift click drop thing.
Yes, and I was going to mention the familiar thing.
Oh,
because that's a really good one we recently got that we'll likely be polling soon, I
believe.
We
are polling that.
So, obviously, at the moment, when you left click on a pet, you accidentally click on it and it kind of screws up what you're doing, whereas we're going to offer the option, possibly
with a toggle
to click through that. And we got that engine feature just recently, so we can do that now.
And also the ability to keep your bank pin unlocked over logout with a check to make sure you're still on the same IP address as you were before you hopped, so that when you're world hopping or if you disconnect and reconnect, you've got your bank pin doesn't have to relock itself automatically. We will be able to do that, something that the engine didn't let us do before safely. With, I think, a toggle.
Seemingly small update, but so nice.
Well, they're both very small.
Yeah.
Getting that one launched is quite hard because it changes your save game, apparently. So they've got to get the web systems updated to match it so that they can still read your save game. I don't honestly know the details, but it's not as quick a check as one might have expected if one just assumed it was an easy thing.
Right, that's fair. Okay, moving on. Brotho says, can we get a crystal quiver? So this quiver would be dropped by elves, worn in the ammo slot, giving plus 20 range strength with the crystal bow, 50% chance to save charge, and it wouldn't be useful in PvP because you would only protect the bow. You would be losing the quiver, of course. My immediate reaction was, oh god, one item crystal bowing, but you couldn't do that with this, so... What'd you think?
Well, the one item would depend on the value of the quiver. If the quiver makes the crystal bow more powerful and has a value, then that will...
The chat's opinion's pretty solid, but...
Fair enough.
See, we were having this discussion the other day, how Reddit and Twitch and Twitter and our forums communities, they all kind of collide in certain areas. Sometimes they're all completely in unity, they want something as a community, but then sometimes Reddit will love something and Twitch will say, dear God, no.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we have the in-game poll system.
Well, that's why we don't just read one site and go purely by what it says, because the polls let us ask a lot more people than would be on here or there or any other one place.
Right.
I like it for the same reason. Like the Nate's Not thing that I mentioned. Like I quite like the original nice old school items being best in slot. It's weird when you come in and all of a sudden people have this loadout doing this thing. That didn't look great.
No, definitely didn't.
That didn't look great. But you know what I mean? It looks weird when you're coming in I like the crystal bow. I think it would be nice to be stronger, but I don't know how. I wouldn't drop it with elves. That's certainly something I want to do.
I like the idea of a chance of saving a charge on it, because even then in PvP, it's perhaps not as useful as it could be, but it would be useful in PvM situations.
Right.
The fact that the thing doesn't have a huge number of charges compared to, well, a long trip is a bit of a sticking point. People have asked for it to be longer.
Something like that,
That rings a bell. So we've already had requests to make it last longer, up the number of charges, which gets a little awkward given that people already have the item, and I'm not quite sure what state they'd end up in if we change its max. But if we added it as an extra item that you could carry around for the extra risk that made it not use a charge half the time, you'd get longer charges. It wouldn't be able to do much more. You might be risking more.
Right.
Well, I think with a crystal bow, traditionally there's nothing really used in the ammo slot unless you're carrying one of the blessings. So it would make sense for it to sit in there.
Yeah. All right. Sharknado says, can your personal best time in a raid be tracked just like at Jad/Zulrah?
Let's see, why not? I wrote the code for Jad and Zulrah.
Would you want it to say the team size? Because obviously, if you've got a team of 4 and you're a lot better than a team of 12.
Yeah. That's actually really nice.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I like that.
I'm going to save that one.
Write that down.
Yeah.
Nobody brought their notepad today. Kieran's not here.
There was a question.
You have a
asking
smartphone?
Which studio we're at. We are still at Jagex, actually. We've just stolen a meeting room from everybody in the company, as opposed to going back to John C's place.
So ring up the blue. No, don't do that. I'm kidding. Don't do that.
Next question. Kenny says, Slayer reward to combine a ring of wealth with your Slayer ring. It has 100 teleport charges, and it's rechargeable for points at a Slayer Master.
I like the idea of combining multiple rings to have more charges than just your standard 8. Adding it to the wealth, because of what the wealth already does, and you've got the standard and you've got the enchanted version from the Bounty Hunter scroll, is it? And don't forget also the fact that it picks up coins and things like that if you choose to wear it that way. But making it an enhanced version seems quite nice because they are very useful, as long as we keep taking them out after people craft them as well.
Suppose more of the Slayer Rings features were accessible from the Slayer Helm, and then people would be more free to just bring the Ring of Wealth because they didn't need the Slayer Ring itself. It would mean that people wouldn't be so much, using up Slayer Rings, but frankly, draining Slayer Gems out of the game has never been my priority,
Right.
given that they are, well, cheap junk from a shop. So that might be another way of going about
That
it.
sounds nice. Do we have much room to fit more onto the helmet?
You can have a good 6, possibly scope for another 7, another couple of ops on a worn item while it's equipped. Gets a bit more hard if you want to unequip it and start having options in your inventory, but that's not really what you do when you're slaying anyway, so much. So, of course, they might want to wear a Serpentine one instead, but I think we've discussed that we didn't really want that to be the only helm to use for any situation.
Yeah, well, that definitely sounds a bit more convenient.
It's just another way of going about the same thing the player might be interested in.
All right. Bibo says, will we ever see hardcore Ultimate Iron Man?
Don't see why not. We've released new modes every October for a few years.
That's kind of been my answer, and people have asked me. I've said, it was only October. Not. We're still kind of far away from the next time we might consider making a new man mode, and we're not necessarily forced to release a new man mode every October. It's just that's when it seems to come around.
It does seem to have come around regularly that way. I'm not sure why, to be honest.
People are interested in something new.
If we find ourselves doing another one, whether it's October or any other time in the calendar, early August, then we could certainly make that be the one, because it's by far the most popular of all the mode options that's come up.
Definitely.
We just have to think, by October time, what stats will people have on their regular hardcores that they might decide to want an ultimate as well? I mean, at the moment we've got, obviously rank 1's dead now, but rank 2 is the only other player that's reached 2k total so far, and it's only been a small number of months since then.
Right. Well, in terms of how many people this would appeal to, I think hardcore Iron Man, or hardcore Iron Man appealed to a good chunk of the player base. As for ultimate hardcore, I don't know how many of our players would actually bother to give that a go.
I think there'll be a few players racing for the notable achievements and things like that.
Yeah.
Like first boss kills, achievement diaries, things like that. So there might be people that want to get their name on the website and stuff.
Well, the good thing is that it may be a relatively cheap update from our end. So even if there's a fairly niche market wants to play with it, we might have relatively little to lose by doing it.
Right. That's a very fair argument.
Because a lot of the infrastructure we'd want for it was made for Hardcore Iron Man already. So Hardcore Ultimate could hopefully piggyback on most of that without needing, weeks and weeks of web team time and engine time, things like that, which bulk out projects quite badly.
All right. Thomas says, hey, I'm wondering why RuneScape 3 gets 2x XP weekends, but Old School doesn't.
Because you guys keep saying no when the topic comes up.
Yeah. I think they probably will right now.
I think it's not so much that we're afraid to offer it to you, it's more that you don't want it, or at least the vast majority of you don't want it.
I don't think anybody would ever think that it would pass.
Yeah, I think we straw polled like a half XP weekend, and that ended up getting like 80% or something, so.
Yeah, we could do a half
that's just
XP
a meme,
weekend.
but
We could do them a straw poll if we would like them to not just have to type no.
They're doing it pretty well.
They can type it. Yep.
It's just no, forehead, no.
we'll see if Mod Merchant feels like throwing in a straw poll.
Yeah.
All right, next question.
I guess not.
Mum says, can you add a 0.1% GE tax?
I don't know how players would feel about this. I think it would be quite mixed.
Yeah.
Didn't we run a survey on that the other week on Twitter and find the answer was no.
I think the people that did want something had different opinions on what the number would be to charge as tax, which is, at that point, it's going to be something that will probably never pass because it won't have what people prefer.
See, 0.1% is kind of like an amount you would probably never notice, I would think, right? But then, in the grand scheme of things, with all of the players contributing to that, it would take a good amount of wealth out of the game, and it's really worth looking at like, well, what benefits does that offer?
Nabbing coins out of the game is a generally good thing. On the other hand, we did run surveys back before we got a G in the first place, asking if people were up for a tax on it. And again, like I say, on Twitter the other week, and it's not looking like it's changed all that much.
Right. All right. Where have we gone to here? Cordo
Plus, you end up
says,
with people wanting to do valuable trades not on the GE, because it may be only a small percent, but if you're selling, a top-end value item, then it will be, some thousand coins potentially.
Right.
And you suddenly have an incentive to save yourself a few thousand coins by trading direct to another player, which, given that our players really do like to optimise their gains, I think they would feel that the GE was not helping them for these top-end items anymore.
Definitely, I agree. Corto says, can we trade back a Master Clue scroll from Watson for a random clue of a lower tier?
So if they get a master that they can't complete, or for whatever reason, or don't want to sit there and get what some of the high requirements for it.
Right.
Sounds like plausible.
Yeah, it's doable.
You get a lot of people that get a bit salty and go, I traded in my master clue and all I got was this easy, and then I only got 2k out of it.
Are they hard enough? Well, I know master clues are hard to get, but like easy and medium and hard clues hard enough to get that really warrants I
They're
need
not
another
very
way.
hard to get at all.
The thing is, to get a master clue, you traded in the other ones, right?
Yeah.
So getting one of them back again is not particularly overpowered.
Definitely. And I'm seeing, through the spam, I'm seeing a lot of yeses, so I think that's worth exploring there.
Yeah.
Machine says, with shift click now out, would we be able to see similar shift click to empty feature be incorporated for rune crafting pouches?
So this one was asked for the skilling poll, but we didn't end up putting it in because we actually couldn't do it before the shift click feature very easily, the way that rune pouches are written. That being said, we now have the ability to specify on items what shift click can do. However, as we mentioned earlier, after you've just released an update about shift click dropping, is it really the best time to gauge players' interests on what they want shift click to do in the future? Is that really? I mean, I don't really think it would even pass, truthfully.
Rune crafting is one of the most contentious skills that we have. That is always very polarizing.
Definitely.
What we could do in 2009, what I did do in 2009 or thereabouts, was just change the fill and empty ops to flip themselves round based on whether the pouch had stuff in it or not. and I guess change the order of the ops in your inventory, because in those days I actually could do that. Old School can't currently do that for the main inventory panel, which is why we've not opened that topic before. But like Wolf says, we can do it with the shift thing, thanks to the engine feature that came out today, if you guys are actually okay with that. And I don't really want to push you straight after the last thing came out.
Yeah. Definitely. I think it'd be worth waiting at least a few weeks. But we'll let you guys play around with it for a bit.
It's worth knowing, that we can do that with objects.
We can.
We can't do it with locks. I saw somebody say, can we have shift-click remove from construction, which I also don't think is a great thing, but we can't do that with things like that. We can't do it. We can only do it with objects in your inventory.
Right.
But let's wait. Let's wait a while.
That's fair. Laura says, could the Fremenic armors be more in line with the de facto gear for each corner of the combat triangle? He says, so Rock Shell is the equivalent to Rune, Spined should then be the equivalent to Black D'hide, and Skeletal should be the same accuracy as Mystic.
What are their level requirements for things
40.
like Spined and they are 40?
I believe so, yeah. I was double checking. I've always wished Spined and Skeletal were better because they look so cool, but they're so useless.
It would be nice to kind of see a difference in terms of that kind of gear at those levels, but being that they are level 40, how long would they be useful for players?
Yeah.
If Spined is going to act similar to what a better Split Bark, I would guess, or sorry, not Spined,
Green
Skeletal
D'hide.
rather,
Yeah.
and Spined would be
Green D'hide.
yeah, a members version of Green D'hide. I don't know. It's interesting. The thing is that's so fundamental to the game, and it's been there for. I mean, how long have those armors been in the game for?
Well, they existed in 2007. I think they've been around for a year at that point.
Right.
Does it grant any benefits at all wearing those armors?
They look.
They don't have set
cool.
effects, if that's what you mean.
No.
I think the only effect that they actually have is when you speak to a Fremenic wearing the full armor, instead of saying, Jarka, you'll say Jarka the skeletal.
Skullbearer.
Yeah, the skullbearer. Like, depending on the armor that you wear, they'll speak to you differently. But that's
I
it.
think Rock
Didn't
Shell
even
looks,
know that.
Rock Shell is like some of the best looking armor in the game.
Seriously, it's got an actual piece of code in there called VT_pimp surname.
Yep.
For Viking Trials, that was the working title for Fremenic Trials, and it gives you a kind of, buff surname for your
Pimp
Fremenic name.
surname.
Yes, a pimp surname for your Fremenic name. So you could be, I don't know,
Jarka.
I think I was Jikir or something of the sort.
Well, that's ironic. Let's move on.
Well, all right. I don't know. Maybe worth expanding on. We'll see how you guys react to that question. RuneScape Pleb says, could it be possible to use Zarek's aid on someone inside of your raids team to heal them?
Oh, I'd love that. Can we?
Pretty sure we can.
It reminds me of, you remember when Dungeoneering went out? I said Dungeoneering, it was contentious, but...
We've said it a lot.
Remember
Yeah,
the
it's
ability
true.
to do that in Barbarian Assault? We'll go there instead.
Yeah, it's because I remember the purple
What
hit
couple
splats
is?
when they first came out. Yeah, I'd like that. Would people not want that? Is that weird?
Well, you'd obviously stop people if you could trade if you're with non-Iron Men. Obviously, you can trade the potion over. Then, when that potion drinks it, they get a portion of the points as well as the creator, etc. If it's the usable, then you could effectively just run around using the potion on everyone that has a couple of HP less, and take all the points out for the potions.
Well, you only
rather than
get
people using
points
themselves.
depending on the amount of heals, right?
No, if it heals, you get points.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a case of you could have people running around and perhaps slightly abusing it to boost their points.
If
So
somebody's
We can take away the points of if you use it on someone else, nobody gets points for it.
Bit mean.
Yeah, exactly.
Quite.
But
I can definitely.
it's a very nice
yeah.
idea. I think it would take a little bit of balancing.
That's the thing with a lot of these ideas is nobody really thinks about the cons. Then we have to kind of sit here and think, okay, well, what negative really does come with this update? I don't think that outweighs the positives in this case.
No,
Potion
it'd
share
be a
as
lot
well.
more plausible
Yeah.
for like skillers and things like that. If someone runs out of a room, say like the skeletal mage or something, and a level 3 skiller, like the one that recently got the Olm Pet, heals people and they can run back in.
Yeah.
How about Iron Folk?
That would be something we'd have to think about.
Can they? Well, it's obviously quite different raids to Calstors, but can Iron Men use the bandages and Calstors to heal other players?
They must be able to in Barbarian Assault for the healer role as well.
Right. If it's that's consistent with mini games. This is not a mini game. So I guess it's its own case. Worth looking
It's
at.
definitely
a
worth
bit
looking
further.
into,
Okay.
for sure.
Well,
Cool
they said
idea.
Dungeoneering wasn't a mini game either.
Right. All right. Next question is from Campfire. He says, "Can the spectral spirit shield effect be made to work at Barrows?"
Because buffing that shield would really make the community happy
I think
right
this
now.
is something that myself and Ash did discuss while it was being developed, and I think the idea was that it's generally not an attack, it's the Barrow's voices that are inside your head, and I don't know how a shield would stop the voices inside your head.
Magic.
It's another dark altar, isn't it?
The wizard did it.
Yeah.
We could have applied it to things that are not attacks, but that's not quite what we offered. And to be honest, I don't think the Spectral's lacking uses at this point, given the number of things that do drain your prayer when attacking you.
Okay.
Put it on the
It's a
alley.
fair point that they're not actually attacks. So.
Well, it's like if you go into Tarn's lair, it's an evil place, it drains your prayer points, and no, the Spectral was not programmed to stop it doing so. On the other hand, when I think a skeletal mystic tries to drain your prayer, pretty sure that one can. It does work there, because that is an attack from something that's coming in on you.
Okay, that's fair. He had a follow-up question saying, can the hard and elite Fremenic diaries offer 5 and 10 less kill count required to access Godwar's dungeons?
That's...
That's a very interesting
5
one.
and 10 kill count. So 5, well, not even 5 minutes, and 10 is not even... I mean, how much time are they really saving per trip there?
A little bit, but not a lot. So it's
Still makes them put some effort in, but albeit less.
A surprising amount of people saying yes.
Nobody likes getting kill count.
Yeah, nobody likes getting kill count. Isn't that the point of that key, though, that you get in the
ecumenical
wilderness?
keys. Yeah, you
isn't
have to
that
go in
kind
the
of point?
wilderness to get them.
Yeah.
So we could use it to with the wilderness one you get more keys, so we could tie something into the wilderness one as well in that aspect. But
As far as this idea, Fremenic Elite, how difficult is that? The
Relatively.
requirements on that, any?
All of
Easy
them are
enough.
Yeah.
just
For
trying
the
to think.
Fremenic,
I've
isn't
been
it like
going through the
96
requirements.
fishing?
Sorry, I thought you meant the job to implement it
Oh,
rather than
no,
the job
no,
to
sorry, yeah. Requirements-wise, as in game, as in, would people actually go through the effort?
Like one of them's
to get
96
that?
fishing. Oh, 91 with an Admiral. 92?
Yes,
91.
91.
Yeah.
Okay.
In terms of implementing the thing, that would be the easy bit. And we could even make the head-up display when you're in the God Wars dungeon show it a different colour once you've got the kill count you need, just in case you forgot.
Chat's saying easy. Well,
Okay, that's
Some of the chat
Mauritania.
is saying
Evidently,
easy.
it's Mauritania, not the Fremenic one. I thought you had to.
oh no. Oh no.
Then yeah, 82 rune crafting as well. I'm fired. That's it. I'm done. It's over now.
Well,
That was it.
We're thinking
I'm
on
thinking
too,
about how to
'cause
implement it, assuming they want it, because they can decide that for themselves.
we definitely saw some support there. Okay. Reggie says, so I kind of TLDR'd his post. A lot of people ask questions which aren't actually questions. They're just massive posts, and there's no TLDR.
Do we
I'm
not
like,
read them aloud to the stream every week? Because we could just sit here and read aloud for these last.
We just read Reddit to the
Yeah,
players.
I don't want to read for 10 minutes. I'll try my best here. So he says, instead of adding new content to the wilderness, can you instead improve existing wilderness bosses? These bosses do more damage than each individual God Wars boss and their minions combined, and the best kill method to kill them shouldn't be safe spotting. His arguments. I kind of figured if we were to look at another wilderness rejuvenation and offer anything more to the wilderness, we would also be looking at improving those bosses.
I mean, the thing is with safe spots is that you take one away, the players find another one,
So what you do there, then?
chuck
is
them in a square hole.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't have phrased it like that, but yes, yes, that is precisely where you put them, and that's why Scorpia's in one. But Venenatis, there's that spider mountain where there's, I think, a sapphire spawn and lots of spiders, and lots of cave entrances that you can't click on. It's always felt like that could have been where we put Venenatis. In fact, when Mod Alfred worked here, he did a little prototyping about trying to make a sort of web cave full of web, with Venenatis scuttling around it up the walls and all that. I mean, you can't actually go on vertical walls, but if you have enough slope, Venenatis would probably look plausible on it. So we looked into that, but we weren't sure that there was all that much interest in making Venenatis harder at the time. Of course, there's better elements.
Vetian redesign, or at least graphically, would
Oh,
be
yeah,
nice.
Well, Vetian
all been a
design.
fan
I've
of
seen
that.
the code for Vetian. That's not a design yet.
And I know Mod Ghost is always keen on trying to do something with that whenever he gets any time to do something.
We've not had as much support as you might expect for graphical improvements to content that was made back then. Like Nightmare Zone, we offered that at least once to make it not look like the KBD there. Vetian's a striking looking figure. I don't honestly know where the heck that god-awful model came from.
It's a reskin of something from a quest, isn't it?
Yes, I think it's the one from...
He's got a big purple banana.
It's not purple banana.
It's definitely reused.
It's one where you
from
get the
something.
Shadow Dagger, Legends. One of the people that you have to kill. There's 3 skeletons, I believe.
The Red Elf Devere and Sanjive.
Those people. Oh no. It's the one with the Shadow Dagger, and there's people in there.
We've agreed that we'd like to change them.
Yes,
they need
yes.
improvements. I think that the community likes the idea of making them or moving them
At
into
the
their own
moment,
little
anyway.
areas.
Santodulon, that's the name.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, let's move on then. Graham says, can you make it so God War's bosses fully heal if the room is empty?
We did briefly discuss this in one of our communication tools earlier today. I think it did split the team a little bit, or did it just split me against the team?
No, I think so. Unless
A lot of people were for it, and I was a little bit against it in terms of it. I feel that it only really affects Iron Men in that case, because if you're running through and if you half kill something, there's a chance you're going to go back, unless your task is finished or something like that. You're going to back gear up and go back to start your next trip with half a kill and carry on. Whereas with an Iron Man, it's obviously he won't get that first kill if it's been damaged.
I don't think it only applies to Iron Man. I think if I was to, I've seen many cases people try to kill a boss. They think they can get the last kill because they've got 2 food left or whatever. They end up telling away with it at 10 health left.Maybe they don't return, and if I'm the next one to hop into that,
You lose a drop.
I'd be upset. Right?
Yeah,
that's really where it would benefit me.
As an Iron Man, you wouldn't get the drop, but as a regular player, I believe if the person is still around doing something in the world, then obviously the drop will appear after a small amount of time.
What if they log out?
I cannot confirm that for you. Mod Kieran said that it does get removed.
If someone's logged out at the time when an NPC dies, they will not be given the drop because it can only drop it for a person.
Well, I mean, like me and you agreed on we definitely thought it was a cool thing to have. The chat seems to enjoy the sound of it as well.
So, one other negative to this, I think, I saw on Twitter was somebody who used a pure to kill it in 2 trips.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many people do that.
Is this particular person? It's because it's an Iron Man pure.
No, it was Ian.
Yeah,
Extreme
I know.
favoritism.
But I think that Ian might be building an Iron Man pure, which
Maybe.
or one of his pure accounts is doing something like that. So that may be just unfortunate to him because he's chosen to build his account that way.
So worth looking into how many people do play like that. I didn't think many people did, but yeah, I think it's an interesting idea. One to hang on to. Sick Nerd says, can we have the ability to enchant an inventory of jewelry at once at a slower rate than clicking individually?
Isn't he the one that...
No, don't go into that.
Okay, all right. Soft cues, Modash, on those things?
I think you mean weak cues.
Weak cues, that's the one.
And yes, we've done a few things where if you set one going, it does the other ones, but you could have done it faster if you click manually. Like we did it to altars in POH and grinding, I think.
Yep.
And generally that seems to cover people fairly well. You don't get the wrist pain if you don't want it. And but for those who pride themselves on just how fast they can make the game go, we don't stop them.
Yeah.
Sounds nice.
Best of both worlds.
We're getting past the memes to find the actual feedback for this question, but
There's no bottom to memes. We are on the internet.
I think we can agree this would be something worth pulling at least. It sounds nice.
There should be some meme involving people who've got a giant cactus sticking out the top of their head.
They'll probably be on Reddit later.
All right.
But where does it stop, Modash?
With this big V sign coming out from behind me.
OSRS Suggestions has a few suggestions to improve Rogue's Den. He says, add a timer that starts at the beginning of each lap for competitive purposes. Move Brian O'Richard next to the minigame entrance. Reward players with 1 to 10 rogue kits instead of just 1. They could have some use since they're stackable, but they come out in such tiny amounts that they're not applicable to any situation. Add experience and gold as rewards to the minigame for those who want to keep playing even after getting the outfit. Imagine fishing trawler giving no fish, just the outfit. That's basically what Rogue's Den is.
And also the outfit. I don't think they covered this one, but if it decided to give you a piece that you had fewest of, then you'd get a lot fewer duplicates when you were trying to get the complete set in the first place.
I'd love that.
Nice.
Yeah, there are a few people that will perhaps get 20 or 30 of one item before being able to finish the set. And then the opposite end, you'll get some people that only require about 6 items before they've completed the 5-item set.
Well, Maz did the thing for temple tracking with the lumberjack kits, so that you get the one you need more than the one you've already got. She can presumably plug that code all over the place if she feels like it.
With moving the NPC, that's definitely a good quality of life thing for that particular update. I don't know how much that NPC is actually used outside of that minigame, if at all.
I think it's not.
The kits you get only transform into something like a rope, a spade, and
Lockpick?
a lockpick.
Yeah.
So if we were to add a couple more things that they could perhaps turn into on there, it would make them a little bit more useful. But at the moment, they are pretty pointless.
There's like the 3 worst things in the game.
I got a bug report about Rogue's Den this week, which is kind of funny. There's this waiting room area that you can go into, and before you go into it, it says, warning, once you go in, you can't come back out. And he went in, and then he couldn't get back out. And there's no teleport portal to take you to the beginning. So he sent a bug report, and it's like, I'm stuck now for 30 minutes. And I'm like, you got the warning. I mean, what do you expect?
Or you just try and run through it and get hurt. Like run.
No. This waiting area, you go up the stairs and you can't get out. You just have to teleport out. Yeah.
Are we still talking about the rogues area?
Yeah.
Because there's no stairs at the entrance.
We're talking about in the maze, you can go through those doors and up into a sort of viewing area around the sides of the maze and look down at people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Normally you're given a crystal when you go in, that orange gem thing to get you out on demand. Now, it could be that if that's being taken off you when you go up to that viewing area, maybe if it weren't, then you'd be able to get out on demand, unless, of course, you throw the thing away, which would be a curious choice.
People do it.
Yeah, same with that black hole. We had to make sure that Thordor could get you out if you dropped your disc of returning once you were in there. He's got some dialogue to make you click through as well to explain, yes, I dropped it on the floor in the hope that something cool would happen. And he might call you a muppet.
Construction question for you, Ash. All Kinds says, at the moment, the highest level lectern in PlayerUnknown's house is 67. You can only have either the Eagle one or the Demon one, which means you have to build 2 in the same room to have both and their abilities. Maybe add a higher level one that combines both of the lower level lectern's abilities.
We can have more variants on a hotspot these days. That's in fact how we were able to have the servant money bag on what used to be the clock hotspot, because that used all its 3 already, and now we've had a 4th one on it. So we can do the same thing to the lectern hotspots, have another variant that beyond what was there before.
The question would then be, when using the lectern, would it be a right-click option to pick which thing you want to go to, or would it be creating a lovely new tablet-making interface?
It depends whether the players would like us to spend all week on it, or whether the players would like that and some other things, and would accept the right-click menu as the stopgap approach to getting it.
That interface is awful in terms of coding, I believe.
We'd have to just recreate the interface if we wanted to edit it at all, which we can do. We just spend a lot longer doing it, and they wouldn't get nearly as much out of the week's update if we did that version rather than the right-click that opens 2 versions that exist already.
Would you make it an upgrade, or would you just make it another similar higher level, just remove and then make
because
a bigger one?
Because it's not an upgradable hotspot, you just make a new one, I think.
Yeah, okay.
All right. He had a follow-up question asking for 2200 and 2250 total worlds, please.
Now we've got the new worlds, I would like to perhaps revisit that. But the only problem is that everyone has their own idea. So I think there was also another 1750 world, or a Questgate world, or a Max world, or whatever. So
I love the idea of a Max world, simply because if we then release another skill, there'd be an actual race to be the first person allowed back onto that damn world.
That's exciting.
Yeah, and then they'd be all there, all by themselves, with the whole wilderness to play with.
But I think it definitely does open the possibilities to perhaps, even if we wanted to have a Questgate world and a 2200 world and a max world.
We have the room now,
Yes,
essentially.
definitely.
So it's a matter of picking which ones we like to pull, or if we pull all
Yeah.
of them and expect some to fail, I imagine.
Well, we have the ability to add them all if they all pass, but then they just remember that that does possibly lock off worlds to certain people, and
Yeah.
they may not like that specifically.
And we'd like to save worlds, I imagine, for tournaments and.
Getting more worlds was also so that there's still more capacity when we've had to take a few away for a Dead Man event.
Yes.
Right. All right.
Have we told them that we don't have to do that anymore? When we got the
We
new
have
worlds.
now.
Yeah.
There we go.
So
Solid.
one thing
Oh
that
my
came
God,
with the new
Luke.
worlds is that we also have a set of worlds where we don't have to take worlds away from the players when we do a Dead Man tournament.
That would be
So
nice.
I think the idea is that we will swap a couple out so the Dead Man has UK, US and German worlds, but it does mean that players will have just as many worlds as they did before.
Fantastic. Next question then. Cohen says, please split the kill count of Lizardman and Lizardman Shaman.
We could.
We can do that going forward. What we can't do is backtrack it to what you killed to get it where it is now.
What about if we gave people the ability to reset that as well, like they can their Slayer counts? Because people may want to, in fact, reset their current Lizardman count and then start afresh from 0 on both counters.
Fine by me. It was suggested that we use the Xeric Talisman as the thing that does this for you. You commune with it and it tells you how many of the creatures you've killed. We can give it quite a lot of options if it's doing that.
I like that.
One guy just said, do it. So
Well, right, we're doing it
One
then.
guy says
after that
Yeah,
request,
absolutely.
it is happening.
Write it down.
James Blunt says, can the text on Neve's...
James Blunt.
Can the
Oh,
text-
God, the James Blunt.
Is he related to Emily
Who
Blunt?
would have thought? Can the text on Neve's gravestone be easier to read? Suggesting change color. He showed an example of changing it. It's currently a red, which is actually kind of difficult to read.
It's red on a grey background,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
That's actually a generic thing that's all over the Underground Pass and a few of the older areas of the game. We could certainly make something that doesn't look like that.
Anything for James Blunt. Anything for James Blunt.
Okay, so like he had a yellow, which looked quite nice, I think. I don't know how that would affect anybody who's colorblind. We'll find something that helps everybody.
We've got
We
software
have
that
software
allows
to
us to
check.
check. We
Okay.
were looking at this today with Kieran.
Also, the background in that, as I recall, it's a fairly speckly grey background. And that means that it'll blend with quite a lot of colours. If, on the other hand, we set it to something that's a nice muted dark grey stone without too much texture going on,
Yeah.
then we could much more easily stick some colour that isn't dark grey on top of it, like really light grey or white or something, and it would probably show up quite nicely. We could even use a nicer font because a lot of those don't have a lot of text on.
I like the font. That's like the typical RuneScape font.
But it's, if you go in the Underground Pass, you find these little dark brown tablets on the ground where you can read, and they open up this big grey slab with red text on it.
Yeah.
I suppose it might represent that Cardi's been writing it in her own blood.
Can we change it to Comic Sans? People love Comic Sans.
Right, we have more questions.
Right, next. Moving on.
Jace says, can the rare drop table be revamped and be made something a little bit more worth looking forward to? When bossing, hitting the rare drop table is usually just an unwanted occurrence.
For what it's worth, we did a fairly substantial change if you've got a Ring of Wealth on, because previously the rare drop list had a fairly high chance of giving you nothing, and in fact it still does, but with a Ring of Wealth, it doesn't give you nothing so much, which means that it's a lot more likely to give you something, which even if you don't want the thing, you may be able to find someone on the GU who does.
Okay.
We could look into what it drops and maybe see
I think that
if
would
there's any
also come under
particularly poor
balancing
areas.
in terms of
All kinds of balancing there.
we may have to address perhaps that the Gorak area.
The Gorak area is an unusual one in that they call it all the time.
Okay.
Leaked? didn't know
Robert says,
Not guaranteed as such, but it happens a heck of a lot. That's why people go there. It's
Oh.
not because they like the graphics.
I always wondered why you went there. I always appointed Gorax over in their claw.
Iron
But
Man.
Really
there we
good.
go.
right? Robert says, looking at raids now, are you happy with the bosses? He says, some people will keep looking for a floor when they don't have to kill Tecton, Vespula, or the Vanguards.
It would always be the way that there's some that are harder than others. We were never going to be able to have, 8 different combat rooms all equally hard as each other.
I mean, if we wanted to, we could force a raid to have every room but in different order, but then that's not very enjoyable
Yeah.
because you'll always be doing the same thing.
So the idea that people will prefer one to another is not something I'm going to lose any sleep over, because it was inevitable that people would find that one's harder than the other ones for me.
I mean, if people are skipping Tech Dome, we can always slightly up his rate of Onyxes. But
I was more thinking about perhaps restricting the amount of times you can enter a raid. So if you are floor hopping, at one point it'll turn around and say, if you don't do this floor, you're locked out for X. To avoid that would be like a very harsh way of doing it. It's a viable
more
option.
like the idea of making the more difficult raid floors more rewarding, personally.
We can
Not
increase
necessarily
the
more Onyxes, but you know.
Well, we can make them start giving slightly more points. Although for people who do get to the bottom, a lot of people have worked out ways of getting themselves well rewarded from raids, much more than they could a month ago when they were still getting to grips with it.
Yeah.
So we should do that carefully too.
I mean, if anything to be said about it, I remember Vanguard's was like, it was kind of the base ground of this is the difficulty we kind of want. Because it was one of the first ones that was really done and perfected in terms of...
The Vanguard was unbelievably well balanced when
from the beginning.
From when it was coded.
So, just to put in perspective, like the idea of other things that might be easier, but certain other bosses that are easier than that, you know, giving more points for more difficult bosses that people generally skip is a cool idea. I quite like that.
There's a question in the chat there saying raids should have a daily cap as to how many you can complete. What do you think of that?
Ooh, I don't know about that.
RS3 did that, and it's not fun content.
At that point,
That's a
does
good
it become
answer.
the case that you must do that number of raids in a day or you are missing out? So it becomes more of a daily chore.
task, which is...
Yeah, that's a no. Let's go with no on that one.
All right.
Because once we
fair
start
enough.
adding content where it's really, really good, but you can only do it, 10 times a day or one time a day or one time a week, then you know that if you go through a week and you haven't done it, you've missed out and you're failing at your optimal gains.
Yeah.
This is why I don't read out their name. Everyone's just like, no, ban that guy.
Oh, who's the question from?
I don't know. Anpa says, why is Steve's head so huge in NPC contact? Can it be changed to a normal human head size?
Why is Steve's head so big, Mother?
He's got the curtains, the curtain hairstyle.
He's got the curtains.
Yeah, they're big, sticky out curtains. And he's big-headed.
I mean, do
People
we want
have
to
heads of
spend-
different shapes and sizes.
This
Why
is
can't
true.
RuneScape have that?
Also, yeah.
Quite.
All right.
Well, according to this, I
no
have a very
argument
big
there.
head.
Well, you're sitting a lot nearer the camera. You're probably big all over, in fact.
Oh, cheers.
Oh. Oh.
All right, next question then. Read it says, Barbarian potions are currently dead content. Can you allow us to make 4-dose mixes? Also, allow them to act as potions, not food with their drink delay.
So at the moment, they're slightly different from the original, but they also heal a very small amount of hit points.
Yes.
I wouldn't see a problem of perhaps switching them to act like potions, because then it does give them a viable use. 4 doses? Well, I mean, it does use the original potion, so
How long does it take to make them?
you
That's
just
the
need to get
question,
it's caviar, roe,
Mostly caviar.
and yeah, so you have to do a bit of barbarian fishing or purchase the supplies.
And split the thing into two dose ones.
Yeah.
If it's that much more effort, are we offering?
yeah, no, and
They've
because
never
it
been all
uses
that
the
used.
original, they keep a price value as well.
Right.
I like dropping it to like the potion delay, but I feel as though if you had the potion delay and the 4 and you make them 4 dose simultaneously, there's going to be this scenario where you take in like just super restores 4 dose barbarian and you start healing with like
Presumably that would mean there'd be a lot more opportunities to do double eats.
which might not be a terrible thing, but
Which is already possible in many ways.
Don't know. Let's assume they don't already have a brew, which is only going to heal more, right?
Can't you have barbarian brews as well anyway, or something? There is many potions on that barbarian list, and they don't have a use at the moment.
Yeah, so I'm generally inclined to doing things with them, and
Yeah.
in fact deleting as much of that code as possible while doing it, because I hate going in that code.
I like to do something with them.
Yeah, and I like doing that, the opportunity for maintenance work, because you guys will be testing it anyway, so I can try and improve the code while I'm in there.
That was my first job this week, wasn't it? Your maintenance of rune pouches.
Oh yes.
They were rewritten.
Yeah, I deleted the entire code and wrote it again from scratch to release.
So hopefully it's all working fine.
Maybe we can have Modlotti investigate into how many barbarian potions are actually used or traded.
I bet you there's some made for their training and then dropped very quickly.
All right. Will Choose says, please update ticket rewards at Castle Wars. Right now, getting any of the halos or armor takes hundreds of hours.
So the last time this was brought up, it was a little bit controversial in the way that people understood what I was saying, because the player suggested I would like to get 10 times the tickets, at which point I turned around and said, yes, but I wouldn't like you to. I would also increase the cost of the items, but by something slightly less than 10, so they're still somewhat. It takes a little bit of time to get them. Definitely not as much as they are now. I mean, Halo's a best in slot 1 defense headgear. Castle Wars gear decorative also has a use in Pures, I believe.
Yep, the body does.
So, I mean, increasing the amount of tickets you get, sure, perhaps if you lose, you actually get a ticket. If it's a draw, you get 1 more than you did before. And if it's a win, you get 2 more than you do now. But I would also, perhaps think about adjusting the prices if we were going to buff the tickets.
I don't know. I mean, if we're only buffing it by 1 per loss,
then that would make a difference.
It's really not much. What we need to look at is the time and exactly how many hours does it take to get this stuff, and how many hours would we like it to take to get this stuff, and then basing off of that, how many tickets.
I think it's more the fact that the original question said he wanted 20 times the amount of tickets, which would turn 150 wins to 6, or it was like a completely ridiculous difference. But
right. So somebody in the chat's saying it's 70, somebody else is saying it's 80 for a Halo. So if it's 80 hours for the Halo, and we say, no, we'd rather that only took 10 hours, for example, we simply calculate how many tickets that equates to. And
I mean, if we did want to, perhaps in a future Qual, do something around mini games in specific.
Yes.
Because I know that, well, as you saw, Ash would very much like to do something like that, but...
Well, it's not just that one either. I had a look at some of the code for interacting with monkeys in Trouble Brewing when I was investigating why the completing Monkey Madness 2 didn't let you talk to them without the amulet.
Oh, okay.
As now. And, the usability for that is pretty ropey. So I think there is scope
perhaps
for
a mini-game dedicated quality of life poll at some point. We just did 4 or 5 of them. Yeah, definitely. I'm up for that.
Fantastic. Fast Monster says, would it be possible to add the emotes from the birthday event in-game?
You know, the reason we left that out is that they're very kind of memey, if that's a word.
Yep.
Meme-worthy or dank, whatever the adjective is.
I know all about memes.
It was a last-minute request to say, I don't know how the community would feel about this. I would be more comfortable polling.
It was better to take them out and then give people the option as opposed to put them in and people hate them.
Yeah, there have been many other games I've seen personally that implement stuff like this, and it's just some people love it, and some people will love it to death. But then there are some people who will hate it to death, and it can be a little tough.
Well, we got a good middle ground, I think, where we didn't release it with it, and we're going to offer it as a poll.
So you can decide whether you accept the memes, embrace the dankness, or whether you'd rather have them just go quietly into the night.
The ether.
The only people that can perform those emotes at the moment are JMods, because I requested it to be put on the potato after release, so at least players could see them outside of the cutscene.
They can see him doing those dances.
Yeah.
Not me.
Are you going to vote no? You're going to vote no,
I don't vote in polls.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right. Yearuckle says, a burner that is permanently lit requires 95 construction, 10,000...
Permanently lit? Sorry. Yeah, carry on.
95 construction, 10,000 Marintils, and 4 marble blocks.
I quite like the ticker suggestion that this got asked a little while ago, didn't it? But instead of it being a permanent version, it was like, can I store Marintil? Yeah, store Marintil and it take it bit by bit.
Yes, they wanted it to be stored, I think, with a small cleric who lives in your house and sticks herbs in your burner.
Just a small priest living at your house.
Yes.
I don't like one-off payments as much as I like chunking stuff in and it doing it incremental. I prefer that, but I don't know how difficult each is to make.
A slow drain as opposed to a large immediate one.
I think some of the quantities he's describing, I'd actually be willing to accept.
Yeah, 4k Marintil.
10k.
10k?
Yeah.
10k Marintil.
Yeah, it's a 4 marble blocks that... where exactly you store Marintil and that many marble blocks, I don't like to think, but I wouldn't rule it out, because that is a lot of Marintil.
A lot of Marintil.
Let's see how the Twitch chat thinks this. Yes or no?
We haven't had a straw poll today. I feel as though we haven't had a straw poll and we should have one.
We've got
We
stuck
will
on
have a
small
straw
priest.
poll.
Yes, let's have a straw poll on this.
Would you like a permanently lit burner? Don't meme it.
Spicy.
Too late.
For the price of 10,000 Marintils, 4 marble blocks, and 95 construction as a requirement.
Yeah, can we offer that and the ticker version where you put them in and it uses it bit by bit and then just no? No, never mind. My merchant's looking at me. No, you're just getting one or the other. Okay.
Well, you can't have him looking at you.
All right, we're going to get that straw poll in the chat for you guys momentarily.
Yes.
Make sure you vote. Moving on to the next question then, Cohen says, can we have a loot chest in our player-owned house with 100 to 200 item spaces to keep track of loot tabs? Should be deposit only and add a transfer to bank option so you can't have a quicker bank access. Also a total GE price.
So effectively having a 1 to 200 extra bank space, but it's not accessible from the bank and you cannot access the bank from it.
I said don't meme it.
It's lit.
Okay.
Oh, that was a ha-ha.
You know what? All right. Let's. Okay. So straw poll results, in case you're wondering, from YouTube. 87% say yes, it's lit. 13% say nah.
Yes. Well, they seem
Okay.
very relaxed about that.
So that is definitely worth hanging on to. Now, as per this idea, I personally, as a player, this is such a cool idea for me, or as a PKer, I should say. Like, if I'm going to PK somebody and I want to know over time, say over a whole trip or over a week's worth of PKing, how much loot did I get? And then I throw it in my bank, it's going to add into my existing DDSs and what have you. Being able to store that somewhere else and then it to tell me my entire, or value rather from that.
It wouldn't be so bad because obviously you'd have to, if you wanted to start selling it, you'd have to go back to your house, take out a whole chunk of it, go to the bank or the GE and start chucking it in. So
How
there is an
doable
option
is
that's
it?
not-
Well, having a separate storage is like having, the looting bag or the Zoran Priestess, just another place where stuff gets stored. I could see them wanting an option at the bottom of it for dump the whole thing into my actual bank, by the way, so they don't have to keep carrying it back and forth to their POH, inventory by inventory. The real question is how much storage space they want on it and whether they expect it to be as fully featured as the bank with placeholders and fillers and tabs, because I think we wouldn't want to go there.
No, I think it would literally just be a place to store items. I mean, if you don't have that much in your bank anyway, then you can use one of the bank tabs in there to start storing all that stuff. But I understand if you're using a DDS or a magic shortbow and you PK DDS's magic shortbows, it makes it a bit skewed. But it would be a thing of adding bank space without having the caveat of the annoying bit of adding stuff in the bank
Yeah,
for the code anyway.
Yeah, the context of this is that the bank code that renders the bank is close enough to overloading that occasionally it does already for people who've got a big variety of stuff in there, I think.
And
People are saying about 100. This guy requested 100 to 200.
that is something that we can
That's a
discuss
large,
between the team
yeah.
and see what we think is fair.
As
Maz,
for the idea, though,
Mod
you a fan
Maz
of
in
it?
the chat just had a good idea. And what about Dead Man mode?
Same with Ultimate as well.
I
We've
would turn
commonly
it off.
restricted a lot of these things for those modes.
I would completely turn it off in Dead Man mode. And obviously, Ultimate Iron Man
Ultimate
wouldn't
as well.
be able to build it.
Incoming.
So, yeah, it's definitely a viable option and something that we can discuss.
Okay, great. Any updates on when we can possibly see scalable interfaces in game?
Sadly, although Ian showed some great pictures. Oh, sorry, my thing's dropped off.
Oh,
Probably
the
all that
doctor. Yeah.
Although Ian was able to show some great pictures, he got the algorithm that scales the client lovely, very smooth, and it even handled the text without pixelating. Unfortunately, he didn't get quite so far on making it work inside the client in a way that could run and let you click and have you click in the right place. And the minimap was sort of all over the shop, and certain types of interfaces rendered, certain other ones didn't. And it turns out that was actually quite a long way from launchable, even if the scaling algorithm itself was looking good. Now, with all the many other things we went to ask the engine team for after he left, that one unfortunately has had to come a little bit lower down the table. We are getting stuff like the update we had today, and the ones that Wolf and I talked about earlier in this stream, Unfortunately, finishing off that scaling interfaces job turns out not to be a matter of just plug it in and press go. That's a fairly big rewrite of the client, sadly, so we're not able to offer that anytime soon. I'm disappointed too, and I really did hope it was like ready to roll, but it seems it is not.
I'd be very curious to see how many people playing resizable and how many people playing fixed. I mean, I myself at home have like 4K monitors, so playing in fixed mode makes my game about that big.
I'd be interested to see that, yeah.
But, you know, I saw a few people playing in fixed because resizable doesn't have resizable interfaces, or...
Well, in fixed mode, you get your things a lot close together, so you don't have to move your mouse around the screen so much.
It's not something we need to straw poll in the Twitch chat, because people could, one, lie, and two, it's just not necessarily accurate. It's more something we can actually look on the back end and see. I would hope probably.
We do have data.
Yeah. Anyways, the stream has quickly come to an end, but I want to get out one last suggestion. There's one question with an image for this stream. Is it ready? Mod Ronan, happy birthday, by the way.
How old are you again?
Okay, so 2JZ asks, clan chat favorite channels?
Oh, I really like that.
Wow.
Can we do it?
That's what I told the player who tweeted it to me. Unfortunately, we have limited ability to do things with the chat channel system. It supports what the engine gave us in 2007, and that wasn't one of them, sadly. Now, of course, the engine team is doing more for us, but if we push that one up the list, then maybe some of these other things, scalable interfaces, an actual clan system would be further down the list.
Right.
And for the moment, we may need you to, keep typing them, I'm afraid, for a little bit longer.
Okay. Lastly, we're going to mention there is currently a Fight Caves competition going on. We've posted on Twitter as well as the news post. So basically, the fastest Fight Caves completion between now and midnight next Wednesday, or this Wednesday rather, whoever gets the fastest, not Jad, but entire Fight Caves time, will win the ever so cool real life Dragon Scimitar. People asking, it's not a real sword, it's foam. Okay.
Yeah, I think someone did turn around and go, "Why are you giving away a real sword?
Yeah.
Tag the police."
It is very cool though. Head to our Twitter if you haven't seen it, or the news post. We're also giving a year's membership for that, so quite cool. In addition, we have the Deadman Tournament March 25th at ESL Studio in Leicester. We have a few tickets still for sale.
Yeah, we've nearly sold out.
Nearly sold out, so head over there. They're only like £5.
Mod Mac K said there was 17 left by roughly around, was it 10 o'clock this morning?
Something like that, yeah. So grab those if you're near the area and want to attend.
We hope that lots of us will be there and you can talk to us and we will talk to you.
Ooh.
You want to look in that camera and we get a close up, I think.
Okay, guys, we're going to go ahead and thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you next week. See ya.